What makes you not want to have kids? Gestures broadly. Like, everything. All the reasons. Just close your eyes and point at something. Instructions unclear, poke self in eye. I can barely take care of myself, sometimes it feels like, can't possibly take on another human. More selfishly, Therese, still a lot of things I want to do that I couldn't if I had a kid. Lastly, just a pessimistic view of the world and the desire to not want to bring new life into that. I couldn't have written it better. Every time I just have black coffee for breakfast, I wonder how in heaven's sake am I supposed to take care of a kid from childbirth up to his or their 20s. I mean, they can have black coffee for breakfast too. Are you my niece, trying to convince me to feed you coffee? Your mom said no, kiddo, sorry. My mental health and financial situation. I wouldn't want to raise a kid the same way I was raised. Those kids who have parents that are perfectly normal but still somehow act like mini serial killers. Yeah. Nature versus nurture. As the parent of 2 kids and sibling of 6, it's clear to me personalities are simply a dice roll. See, that terrifies me for having another. My daughter is perfect, the Kwisatz Haderach. What if I have another child and it's a complete ducking lemon? My nieces have a friend, A, since kindergarten, who has a really evil brother, P. Every time they invite A, the mom has to come too and bring P because he will try to hurt out of jealousy for being invited when he is back home. She has to stay the whole time and keep watch over P because he will hurt the children and the parents, too. I have never seen parents looking more tired and exhausted. P is already in psychological care, but the psychologist won't diagnose him with antisocial personality disorder or something similar because he is still too young. P will go to great length to try and manipulate other grown-ups. For example, he will hit his own face and then come to you and say it was one of his parents or his brother. Since he is still young, you can know that he is lying, for example because you have seen him hitting himself, but in a few years. No idea what the parents are supposed to do. I worked with a boy like that once. He was 12 and his parents had been forced to give him up to become a ward of the state, not because they didn't still care about him, they remained very involved parents, but because his behavior was so severe that they couldn't safely care for him in their home. Frankly, no one could safely care for this boy. I got involved because he was torturing an older kid at his group home. He had to be moved to a foster home that was basically a mental facility for kids where he would be closely monitored. His parents were right to have him removed, his siblings would not have been safe. Your friends may have to do the same thing if P's behavior continues. To keep us safe, they may have to give up parental rights to P and have him placed elsewhere. This thread terrifies me. It's irreversible, you can't unhave kids when you've committed to it, so when you have all those doubts and fears you might not be a good parent, it's hard to take the plunge. Plus I'd have to find someone to have a kid with and make more money for it to be viable, but I think they're secondary to actually wanting to go through with it. You can unhave them, but it is generally frowned upon. Edit, I cannot believe this has more votes than all my previous comments combined. It's intriguing, but, thanks. Somehow this even got a wholesome award, the irony. I was talking with a coworker the other day about the annoying kids we get in the place and said I bet in ancient times when parents had enough of their kids they probably took them to a cliff somewhere and threw them over the edge. Would have been pretty easy to get away with back before modern laws and cameras, people everywhere. #X200B, I don't doubt today some parents have thought about this. But it's much harder to do now. Money, responsibility, not having any good genes to pass on. Kids. The best birth control is seeing everyone else's shitty kids. I love my niece and nephew. Every time I see them I have a blast. And every time I leave I think, thank duck that's over. Same. Our first and only niece is almost a year and we spoil the shit out of that kid and are also glad we don't have our own. I love the feeling when the niece-nephew would start their tired whines at the end of the visit. I'd always get the aren't you glad you get to leave from their mom. Yes. Yes I am. It's a nice place to visit, but I wouldn't want to live here. The fact that nothing really makes me want to have them. I feel like you should have an overwhelming desire to become a parent, I don't, so why would I have a kid? As a child of a parent who didn't actively want them, thank you for thinking about what this does to a kid. I would be a terrible parent. I would be a terrible parent but a great uncle smile. Exactly my position. I have 2 nieces and a nephew. Everyone always says how good I am with them and asks why me and my girlfriend aren't trying for our own. I'm good with my niece because I know at the end of the day she goes back home and I don't need to deal with her all the time. She's excited to see me and always in a good mood because she only sees me every other week or so, whereas every day I couldn't put up with it. As I like to say, I like to play with them, but I like to return them to their rightful owners even more. I don't know how parents do it. You have to entertain them. I get bored and impatient after a few hours. And for all of this COVID nonsense, not going to school and whatnot, I would have drowned them months ago. Great for those who wanted them, but I never had the batteries put it for a biological clock ever. Not trusting myself enough that I'd be motivated enough to take care about them constantly and treat them the way they deserve. Edit, I guess this could be interpreted as a fear of commitment or running away from responsibility. But for now I am committed to my freedom, I seek spaciousness. Not everyone is built to be a parent. Being self-aware enough to acknowledge that may not be you is actually pretty responsible, emo. This. Growing up, if my dad couldn't fix a problem by throwing money at it or using his hands, he usually made it worse. Mom ended up doing 99% of the actual parenting and I grew up with low self-esteem, crippling depression, and terrible anxiety. Dad's not a bad person. It's just that he wasn't equipped to be a parent when it wasn't fun for him. Watching my sister's kid get kicked out of daycare for slamming a kid's face into a table and hitting a teacher. He's 3, and the most difficult kid I've met. Edit, lol, I've got replies saying he's being abused and replies saying he's being gentle parented. It's a catch-22, no matter what you're either too rough or too gentle. He lives at my house with his mom and sister, I usually WFH, no one beats him, and he is regularly punished. Now someone's gonna say he's punished too much. He just gives no ducks. Growing up with an inexplicably evil older sibling. Kids aren't always sweet and innocent. True. And the duxed up thing is, sometimes kids are just shitty. You can have amazing supportive and loving parents and an absolute shit of a kid. I've been dealing with a mentally disabled older brother for nearly all my life. He's 32 years old, but acts like a 7 years old nearly all the time. I love him to death, but after so long of dealing with him growing up, I'm 22, I just do not have the patience to handle something like that again. Edit, wow, didn't expect this to blow up. Thanks for the kind and understanding comments everyone. To everyone else struggling with something similar, know that you're not alone. It may feel exhausting at days, and sometimes you might wish you weren't even in such a posture. But cherish those moments you share with them where they're the happiest you've ever seen them. Because at the end of the day, you're all they have left. I fear for my brother's future every day, and hope that he grows up well without the need for us to care for him. 247. This is my big one. I feel terrible for this, but the fear of having a child that isn't going to grow into a fully independent person with no limitations stopped me dead. If there was a guarantee they would be of average mental capability, I might reconsider. Pregnancy. This is 90% of it for me. I've always been terrified of pregnancy, but I thought I'd feel more comfortable with it as I got older. Nope. I'm 34 and the thought of being pregnant still freaks me out to no end. I'd love to adopt, but I don't think I ever want to be pregnant. Watching my wife's stomach grow and her deal with all the side effects. Watching them go and snip the back of her vagina open to allow more space, seeing my son ejected. I was like, duck, I could never have done this in her place. Appreciate your honesty. I wonder why don't we hear more about such stories. It is like media always focus on positive part of the life-changing incidents and guilt trip many parents into having negative thoughts. You need the British show, One Born Every Minute. Damn horror show about it. I remember my mom had it on at one point and they just showed this woman screaming in pain giving birth and like 5 minutes later she's still screaming and one of the midwives was like, yep, this is going well, nice easy delivery. I already didn't want kids but this cemented it faster than cement dries in the desert. A lovely clip for anyone curious enough. U2.B, also, I agree with a commenter below, I think the media generally does a good job of showing it as painful and scary, but maybe doesn't do the full spectrum of emotions full justice.